All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little San Francisco Giant video. Will one of the all-time Giant greats be moving on to St. Louis? We'll hit that coming up next. First, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue you're going to find in all of Northern California. We should also mention that we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Check that link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, and they will match you up to your first $100. All right, Brandon Crawford to the Cardinals. What do you guys think of that? That's the talk. The Cardinals, their president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, is expected to try to add some middle infield depth. The Cardinals are attempting to choose their backup shortstop. They've got a star prospect in Mason Wynn, and Tommy Edman is in house there with the Cardinals. And we'll see what direction they go. But according to the St. Louis Dispatch, Derek Gould, he pointed out that that Brandon Crawford and Nick Ahmed, two former Gold Glove winners at shortstop, are being considered by the Cardinals as prospective shortstops to bring in to Cardinals camp, at least for a tryout. And they're also talking about former all-star infielder Elvis Andrews. He's also unsigned. So, Crawford is obviously would be a great call. He's, defensive-minded shortstop. He's a four-time Gold Glove winner. He's a good player. He's a two-time World Series champion. He's a four-time Gold Glove winner. He's a three-time All-Star. In some ways, I look at the Giants and say, well, wait a second. Why don't the Giants have Marco Luciano? He's a right-handed hitting shortstop. They would love to have a backup shortstop and preferably one who hits left-handed. Why wouldn't they bring back Crawford? And I just think it's one of those situations where the Giants must feel that, Brandon Crawford, if he was standing there, he's a proud veteran, and he's been the Giants starting shortstop for so long that maybe his presence would outshine Luciano and make it so Luciano wasn't really comfortable, going forward as the starting shortstop, because you got Crawford there looking over his shoulder. So, Brandon Crawford at this point, he's born in 1987. He went to UCLA. He's a Pleasanton guy that I think lives in Arizona now. He didn't have a great year last year. I'm not pretending that Brandon Crawford is still a great player. I mean, he hit 194. So, anytime you're under 200, he's a 250 career hitter. But he hit 298 as recently as 2021 with 24 home runs and 90 RBIs. Kind of shows how fast things can fall apart. 2021, he hits 298 with a 373 on base, 24 homers, 90 RBIs, and 11 stolen bases, and really had a good year, terrific year. And then the bottom fell out. 2022, he drops from 298 to 231. His OBP drops from 373 to 308. His home runs fell from 24 to 9. His RBIs fell from 90 to 52. His steals went from 11 to 1. And then more of a precipitous drop in 2023, where he hit 194 with a 273 on base, 7 home runs, 3 stolen bases, only drove in 38. So he only played 92 games this last year. But it seems to me that, like, if you really said, what do the Giants need behind Marco Luciano? Well, they need somebody who can play shortstop defensively in the late innings, because Luciano's defense is probably a big question. They preferably would need that player to be a left-handed hitter. They want somebody who's a good clubhouse guy. So in a lot of ways, Crawford does check the boxes that the Giants want. But I just think that, because of his longevity with the Giants, I mean, he came up in 2011, won the World Series in 12 and 14 with the Giants, and has had this, really nice career with the Giants, that maybe they just felt like, this is going to be a distraction. and maybe it's easier for Crawford to go somewhere else and man the spot man the shortstop backup spot in St. Louis. Maybe it's an easier deal for him to do that than it would be to do that in San Francisco. And I understand that. I definitely do. So it's personally, I would love to see Crawford back as the complement to Luciano, because I think Crawford's a good guy. He's a great locker room, clubhouse presence. He's a lefty. He's been there, done that. He's got a wealth of information and knowledge. But, they always say sometimes it's easier for guys to accept new roles and lesser roles in new clubhouses or new locker rooms. And maybe Crawford's that case. I almost feel like the Giants want to give Luciano kind of a clear runway to playing time and maybe go with Tyler Fitzgerald or somebody younger. Maybe they want their backup shortstop to be, Tyro and, or somebody who maybe who's going to be able to play multiple positions. The one thing about Brandon Crawford is he's just a shortstop. You're not going to put him at third. Probably you're not going to put him at second. He's just going to play short. And maybe they want more versatility out of that spot than they would normally get with Crawford. But it's too bad because, Crawford, 13 years with the Giants. And, he's been a great Giant, and he's a fan favorite. And it's amazing. For a dozen seasons, the Giants never had to question, who was their shortstop. They would just say, it's Crawford. And the thing about Crawford is that he had such a calming influence on everybody else. It's like other guys played better defense when he was on the field. As simple as that. I mean, it's just like he literally was that rare player that could elevate other people. And if you take him out of the situation, take him out of the infield, we'll see what the defense looks like. So the current plan is to let Luciano sink or swim. And, we'll see. We'll see. Luciano's got a high ceiling. He's got major bat speed. He's got power. He's got speed. There's a lot to like about Luciano for sure. And maybe if Luciano gets comfortable and, gets into a nice rhythm, maybe things break well for him. Maybe things will be perfect if Luciano just gets if Crawford's there, he's looking over his shoulder. That's really it. And even if there's somebody else there that could take his job, it's not, there's probably a lot more. I mean, I would love to see Luciano learn from Crawford, but it's just not always the way it goes. And it's probably easier for Brandon and easier for the Giants if he just moved on to a different spot. But all I would like to say in this video is, one, good luck to Marco Luciano at shortstop. I'd love to see him develop into the next great Giant shortstop. And thank you to Brandon Crawford, because, Crawford to me was a great Giant. He was always good in interviews that I did with him. And, I'm sure there were times that he didn't like my criticism of him or other people on the team, but he was always professional and just a pro's pro. And Giants fans love him. Giants fans will miss him, and we wish him well. And if he goes to St. Louis and he winds up having a nice little run there, St. Louis is a great baseball town, and that might be the one place outside of San Francisco that would appreciate what the guy has done in his big league career. I hope he gets another full year or two in the big leagues and can walk away on his own terms. Obviously he's got a house full of little kids, and he's one of the favorite Giants over the last 10, 20 years for sure. And we wish him well. But it sounds like Brandon Crawford could be headed to St. Louis. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.